Welcome back, South Philly Sauce, an Odyssey original brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Al Morganti, Ashlyn, Sullivan here with you at the end of July. It is really hot outside. We were just talking about Eagles training camp. It's been brutal, which gets you pretty excited for hockey season. A nice cold rink. Sounds pretty nice right now, but a lot going on with the Flyers, as there always is. And the biggest story by far in Philadelphia is Carter Hart, and the trial that has taken forever is finally finished, but kind of, sort of, not really. Carter Hart found not guilty in this trial, and we figured things would move pretty quickly when that happened, that teams were going to call Carter Hart a free agent, with the NHL as of now putting a stop to that, and it's another speed bump in this ever-long case, Al, and I think people are a little confused where it stands now.
Yeah, Ashlyn, I think a lot of people are confused because in the first place, the trial wasn't covered a lot down here in the States, which is amazing. And it had unbelievable coverage in Canada. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, and to recap, you mentioned that all 5 not guilty by the judge, no jury, not guilty. And initially, the NHL puts out a statement that they're going to have to complete. They've already done a study on this, and they're going to then release that. So the players can't sign until the NHL decides what they're going to do. Now, is that just a kind of a caveat to that? And I was one who thought, what's the NHL doing? I mean, why would you just say they can play? I mean, the guys are fine, not guilty, and leave it up to the teams. However, there is a period of time that the Crown or the defense or the Canada can kind of go back to the courts and say we want to look at this again or whatever. And I think the NHL is waiting for that period to kind of get past that period where they can appeal. So if there's no appeal, then I think it's a case of what are you doing here? You've already had your study on this. Just let the guys play or leave it up to the teams or say they can't, one way or the other. Come out and release your findings on this. But they want to wait for the appeal period to go past. It's only a couple of weeks to go past before they do anything. Then, Ashlyn, after that, that's where it becomes like really bizarrely interesting, I guess is a word you could put to it. Like, I don't think Carter Hart is going to want to play in Canada. Not talk to him or anything, just my reading on this situation. I believe that the Flyers would be an option for him. And I think this is going to go way over the heads of Danny Briere and Keith Jones. I think this is going to be an ownership decision, whether they can even go toward this. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be another wait and see period and see what goes on. It's going to be political. All of that stuff's going to go on. But, for those of us who want to have an opinion one way or the other, once this thing is settled, I believe if guys are found not guilty, and this is what's really interesting to me, when the judge made her decision, Carter Hart, who testified, he's the only guy that went up there and basically said, this is what went on. This is what I was thinking at the time and whatever. She kind of used that in favor of saying that there was no guilt in this situation, mm-hmm. that there was sort of compliance. And although if I were his lawyer, I probably would have advised going up and testifying. I think he did a lot of good for all of them by going up and opening up about it. So this is going to be a real sticky situation once it happens. But I believe it's going to eventually be in the hands of the Flyers ownership to see what they do here.
Right, because it's not just a hockey decision. It's far from just an on-ice decision, and it's not just the Flyers that are going to have to decide what's best for the organization. I think it's any team that considers signing him. It's what do you want from a business standpoint, and there will be backlash, any team that signs him. But the moral of the story is some team is going to sign him. We know that much is true.
Yeah. You would think, and the Flyers situation is even more murky because when you have an ownership that's like, this gets political, to be totally honest, on what's gone on here. When you are an entity like NBC and the stuff that goes on politically with networks now, mm-hmm. it could really turn into a real mess for a company. So we'll see what happens on that situation. But my read on it is if the Flyers wanted to, and and there's no appeal or whatever, and everything happens, I think then it would be the ball would be in their court on what they decide to do in the future. And from a hockey viewpoint, you went out and signed another goaltender, Vladar, but you have tradable commodities in terms of goaltending if you want to go that route. And he's gonna have to ramp up his game, I would think, before he comes to the NHL. So we'll see what I don't want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak, here, but I think the Flyers and their ownership especially is going to be faced with a really, really confusing situation.
Yeah, it's like you see both sides. And I think it's important to remember, because I've at least been getting asked a lot, like, oh, if Carter Hart comes back, he's going to save the Flyers. Like, this is a brainer on ice perspective. Like, you need to bring him back just from a hockey perspective. But I was talking to Joe Fordyce, our NBC Philly Flyers producer, the other day, and we were talking about when we sat down with Danny Briere before Carter Hart was dismissed from the team, before this even happened. And Danny Briere was honest with us that Sam Ersson was really pushing Carter Hart for starts, and that's why they started splitting those starts. Maybe it's because they knew this was coming down the pipeline and it wasn't a hockey thing, but I remember a couple of years ago us thinking, like, man, Sam Ersson is really pushing Carter here. And a lot of days, Sam looked better than Carter, I thought.
Yeah, but when you go back, and we mentioned it when we would go to practice every day, and like I especially talked to Hart a lot during that time. And I think part of the reason that happened was this situation's been kind of weighing on him for a long time. You can imagine what it would be like in the future. And remember, he was sick, and and I think this played a large part in that. I think if this had never happened, well, God, that there would be we'd have a whole different conversation now about what he's going to go or where he's going to play and how he had been playing. Frankly, if everything had been smooth from the beginning, I think with him as their goaltender, I think you make a pretty good case they would have made the playoffs in each of the last two seasons.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And curious how he plays, if this comes back and he's able to play not guilty, how that changes his game. But definitely putting the cart before the horse. It's a big decision for the Flyers and the NHL as a whole. And we'll see what happens. It's been a long time coming, that's for sure. And now to the future, Porter Martone with the Flyers. Everyone is very excited about this pick, about this future star here for the Flyers. Commits to Michigan State. Had a couple of options. What'd you think, Al?
I thought it was interesting on a couple of levels. One, I was thinking he might go to Penn State, but Penn State, signed their big guy, and they continue to sign guys. I think, Ashlyn, when you look at it, you had development camp, and the big story out of development camp, although Martone looked like, maybe he can come and play here, especially with the Forster injury, but Bump played so well. And I'm just looking at this from a viewpoint of, okay, if I'm Martone, I come in and you have eyes, who's playing well. Mm-hmm. And this kid's playing out of his mind. He by far was the best player at development camp. And I'm thinking he's going to get a spot on the team. Are they going to bring two kids in at the same point? Or I can go play in the minors, or I can go to play at Michigan State, where Flyers have people there. NCAA hockey's booming right now in terms of guys going there and developing. And it's kind of a fast track because you're playing against bigger players. I've not talked to anybody about it, but I just know human nature to me. If you go to that development camp and you see that one guy is just excelling, a little bit older along the development trail, I'm thinking, well, I think the best spot for me, and the Flyers would think so too, is to go play in college, get another year there. And then at the end of the year, if the Flyers magically have a really good year coming in, the end of the college season, you can go join the team then. So I think it was a plus. I don't know. Some people were saying, "Oh, it's like the Cutter Gauthier thing." It's nothing like that at all. And it's plus everything's changed with college hockey anyway. Mm-hmm. This was a case of this is the best case scenario for the player and the organization, especially in my mind, given that another player has stepped up so much in terms of grabbing a spot on their roster in September, October.
Yeah, and it only helps the player. It only helps his development. Why rush it when you don't need to? And I don't see why it's an issue that he's only going to get better in this situation.
Yeah, and college hockey's been, college hockey's going to get crazy in the next few years. I don't know what's going to happen in the Canadian leagues with, the kids making, go in and make a lot of money, a lot for hockey. You're not talking like football in the NCAA. But I think it's going to push that forward, and it's going to become like the preferred spot, obviously, to send somebody and see their development come along. We see with the Flyers, with kids from Western Michigan, what's happening with Penn State. And I think it's going to help everybody, especially in the United States, where maybe a few more eyeballs turn in to see what's happening. Let's say Michigan State's playing Penn State or whatever. I think that really helps. You see what happens in football when you've got that kind of notoriety with players coming up. And I think the next step is going to be, look, I've covered college hockey since Herb Brooks at Minnesota, so Jackie Parker at BU. I think what's happening here is I think you're going to see Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas. I think those are going to turn into programs that really, really catapult that sport.
Why do you think that? That's so interesting. Because when I went to Florida, they had a women's ice hockey team, but they did not have a men's. And I don't believe they still do.
I think because it's a sport, when you look at it, they fill buildings in these places, and campuses love it. Look what's happened at Penn State. And I think that there's going to be a hunger for it as it gets bigger and bigger, national coverage on the Frozen Four. And I see programs start to kind of build a little bit now. Consider this. You've got little schools like Sacred Heart, little schools that can make a huge impact quickly because of the players that you can bring in. So I think that's the next spot where that's going to be. I think you're going to start to see kind of a crossover where you see some football people getting really interested in the hockey program, if you will. John Gruden going to Penn State and doing stuff or whatever. And once Penn State made that move, I think other schools will look at this and say, we've got a building for basketball or whatever. I think that those programs are going to go on. Those club programs have been pretty good. I mean, Birmingham, Alabama, stuff like that. Once it happens, when you look at college hockey, those buildings are packed.
Yeah.
They go in. So I think that's going to be a natural on what goes on. Might not happen overnight, but I think that's the future.
I like it. It sounds good to me. And Matvei Michkov is sweeping the nation, for lack of a better term. He's everywhere. He is having himself a summer, as he should. But I applaud players that can read the room, understand the platform they have, understand, let's make the most out of this. And he is. And credit to him. He's posting. He's everywhere. He's taking advantage of his platform and his opportunities. And I think it's awesome.
So, Ashlyn, what's he posting about all the time? Is he posting some TikTok about, some crazy dance or something?
No, we're not there yet. Quite
no, but he's posting hockey stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, this is what platform. Yeah, this is what we said when the Flyers, decided they were going to go that route with Michkov and take him. It's like, this guy is whatever the word is in Russian for rink rat. This dude's a rink rat, and he just loves hockey. So everything he's doing is like, he's posting this, that, a move that he made or whatever, where he is, what's going on in that league over there, the prospect situation over there. He's just on the ice all the time. And the Flyers are posting stuff with the martial arts guy or whatever, which is fine, whatever. But I want to see stuff like the Michkov. I want to see that the guy is like 100% in on hockey. And even if it ends up funny when one day he says, I'm done with the Michigans, and the next day we have a highlight film of him scoring on a Michigan, that's fine with me because he's on the ice doing stuff. So I think when I look at the stuff that he's posting there, and I'm, not like Ben Simmons, like, I'm going to have 3-pointers, I'm going to do this in the gym. No, this is a completely different situation here. Just the guy that just goes out, loves the game, on the ice all the time, apparently going in. So I think this has been I was a little bit worried when they said he's going back. He's not going to stay in South Jersey or Philly for the summer. But you look at where he is there; he's just at a rink, basically, as far as we know, and the stuff that he's posting there. So I'm a little less worried about that. Go back and not have your eyes on him, so to speak, but your eyes are on him because he's always in the rink, always doing stuff. I just think that it's great when players just love the sport like that. So I can't wait to see when he comes back. And if he ever gets involved with that martial arts stuff, whatever goes on with his Mike Tyson neck or whatever. It's bad enough he's got all that talent. It's good enough he's got all that talent on the ice, but he could be a real danger to the opposition with his body type, his strength, even though he's smallish, so to speak, but he's really already really solid.
Yeah.
If he can develop that reverse check, Peter Forsberg type of stuff, man, he's gonna do some damage to people who are trying to do damage to him.
Yeah. And it's encouraging, I think, just for Flyers fans and everyone that you see him working. I mean, and he could be taking a month-long break right now, and that'd be totally fine. We're seeing other players do that, but encouraging that he wants to be on the ice. He wants to get better. He's putting the time in. Really cool stuff. That's for sure. And another guy that's been everywhere is Rick Tocchet. Seen him a lot in Philadelphia. He's been on podcasts. He's been making the rounds as he should as the new head coach, and big news, of course, with the Olympic team, an incredible accomplishment for him. But I think as a whole, you see when we were talking about with the Flyers' new head coach that you wanted someone with this recognition, and you very much see already that he has that.
Yeah, and the players they brought in, I wanted to come in. Part of the reason is I want to play for Toc. It's kind of cool when you have a guy like that with, he's been around for a long time, and he's still Toc. That was his nickname as a player. He's still Toc when the players talk about him. It's that's the kind of reputation he has. They bring the whole Four Nations, the whole Canada staff. He was part of that. But that's big to me that you have that stature. That's why I think it was a little disconcerting to me that when the Flyers hired him, some people said just the old boy network. Well, it's not. I mean, his status within the NHL right now is very, very high, and this is just more to that point on what's gone on. So, and I think that those words weren't kind of hollow, and they said, well, part of the reason is we're going to attract people with Rick Tocchet, and I think you've already seen that happen. Imagine that they're in a playoff race at the end of a year, we're going to get free agents, whatever. It's going to be appealing to some guys to come in and have that going on. This is not, I don't. John Tortorella couldn't do this. Rick Tocchet brings another level here, another situation with a guy that's been there for a while, younger guy coming in and doing stuff like this. And that's the other thing. When you think of Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella, do you think one is way younger than the other?
Yes.
Well, look at their ages. Is there that much difference?
No. The way they operate, so their persona is it is night and day difference.
Right.
It's not that one better than the other, but
no, but it's kind of weird when you really think about it. It's like, man, it's like people talk about like there's a 40-year difference or whatever. It's like, one's just really, really old school, and the other one kind of talks kind of in another lane, so to speak. So let's just take advantage of that a little bit on what's gone on. So I think it's been really cool. Now he'll be around a lot more wherever he went for a few months or whatever. But I think he's settling in now, going to live downtown, I would assume, and just have a blast with it. He's got so many connections here already. So already that's looking like paying off in terms of the kind of hire that they made.
Agreed. Going to be an exciting year for the Flyers, that's for sure. And that is South Philly Sauce, an Odyssey original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels, Al Morganti, Ashlyn, Sullivan. We will see you next week.